Congressman, Donald Trump suggests that he could prosecute his political rivals if he's elected president again. Roll tape.
Look, when this election is over, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them. And it's easy because it's Joe Biden.
Congressman, would you support retribution? Because that's what Donald Trump is talking about, retribution.
Stuart, Donald Trump is not talking about retribution.
Based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them.
Donald Trump is talking about every American standing as an equal justice system. What we have seen is if your last name is Biden, you're treated much more favorably than any other American. That is what he's talking about.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Donald Trump is the kind of guy where he shows who he's going to be, believe him. When in that debate he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, he meant it.
Willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what.
And on January 6th, they showed up.
Multiple capital entries. Multiple capital entries. This is now effectively a riot.
1349 hours declaring it a riot.
They were standing by and they heard his call that our democracy was at stake and that we needed to stop the peaceful transfer of power. So they showed up and they tried to do exactly that. So when he says that he's going to be a dictator on day one and that he's going to go after his political foes, we need to believe him.
It's a very interesting question, and I say it and it sounds beautiful, right? You know, my revenge will be success, and I mean that. Well, revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified, Phil. I have to be honest. You know, sometimes it can.
Does anyone doubt that he's going to follow through with his promise of going after his political foes in a prosecutorial abuse of power? If he wins office, as he's been romanticizing, going after the president's wife, the former Secretary of State, the fact is he's angry that he became a convicted felon by his peers, and he keeps trying to disparage our justice system, saying it was a political witch hunt. And he's doing this because then when he tries to do it, if he were to win the office of president, then he can say that it's just fair, that his actual use of the Department of Justice in a witch hunt is just even Steven. And so he's already sowing his ability to get away with that by claiming Biden is doing exactly what he plans to do. The fact is, we know that doesn't make any sense. This was a state prosecution. Biden has no control over that legally. And also, ironically, the Biden administration is prosecuting Biden's own son right now. You would think that if he was trying to interfere with justice, he would protect his son. So the whole thing actually makes no sense, but it doesn't matter if things make sense in Trump world. Fact is, he keeps on saying it over and over enough for people to believe it. And so he is giving himself the ability to go after his foes because he's saying that's what's happening to him. But of course, Donald Trump hasn't just been talking about locking up his political foes lately. Of course, he said it in 2016, but again last year in an interview with Glenn Beck asked him whether or not he regretted not locking up Hillary Clinton and whether or not he will lock up people if he were president again. And Trump answered, quote, "The answer is you have no choice because they're doing it to us."
You said in 2016, lock her up. And then when you became president, you said, we don't do that in America. That's just not the right thing to do. That's what they're doing. Do you regret not locking her up? And if you're president again, will you lock people up?
Well, I'll give you an example. The answer is you have no choice because they're doing it to us.
And this was well before his trial and conviction. And then Steve Bannon, one of the megaphones, said that the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, quote, should be and will be jailed if Trump wins in November.
They're not going to shut up Trump.
They're not going to shut up Navarro. They're not going to shut up Bannon. And they're certainly not going to shut up MAGA.
A side note is a saving grace for our democracy is that Steve Bannon himself will be jailed July 1st through the November election, so hopefully we will hear less from him. Now, Donald Trump also wants to lock up journalists for, of course, telling the truth, which he's not very comfortable with. When he was president, he referred 335 classified leaks for criminal investigation, of course, setting a record because he doesn't want information getting out there. One of the things that he was particularly upset about was the Dobbs decision being leaked by the Supreme Court. He said in that respect that a journalist should be basically threatened with being raped in jail in order to deter them from reporting the news.
You know, in this country, they leak all over the place, even on the Supreme Court. By the way, you have to find the leaker of the Supreme Court. You have to find the leaker. You know how you find the leaker? They'll say, oh, this is treasonous, what I said. So they can't find the leaker. He leaked all about Roe v. Wade. Look, this person leaked from the Supreme Court, never happened. You know how you find? But they don't want to mention this because they think it's so terrible. You take the writer, because you're never going to find it. They're going through phone records. It's been a long time. You take the writer and or the publisher of the paper, a certain paper that you know, and you say, who is the leaker? National security. And they say, we're not going to tell you. They say, it's okay, you're going to jail. And when this person realizes that he is going to be the bride of another prisoner very shortly, he will say, I'd very much like to tell you exactly who that leaker is. It was Bill Jones. I swear he's a leaker. And we got him. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that, but that's the only way you're going to find. We have to find.
Now, if you remember with that investigation into the Supreme Court case, all of the staff people had to testify during the investigation under oath, which meant by penalty of perjury. But do you know the people who didn't have to testify under oath during that investigation? Yes, those 9 justices got a chance to tell their story without it being under oath. So you wonder why they never found the leaker. The irony is that Trump says that the Biden administration is somehow at fault for 12 of his peers convicting him in New York. So I'll say it again, the federal government has nothing to do with the state government. And ironically, the federal Justice Department is actually bringing charges against Biden's own son. You would think that if he were trying to have leverage over the justice system, he would do it in a way to protect his son. But does it matter if Donald Trump's arguments make sense or not? The fact is, he keeps on saying them over and over and over, and certain of his believers will believe him. So just as he said that the election was fake, 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 now he says that our justice system is corrupt, corrupt, corrupt.
A case where if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. These are bad people. These are, in many cases, I believe, sick people that we have. We just went through one of many experiences where we had a conflicted judge, highly conflicted. So I'm the leading person for president, and I'm under a gag order by a man that can't put 2 sentences together, given by a court, and they are in total conjunction with the White House and the DOJ, just so you understand. This is all done by Biden and his people. And this is done by Washington, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. So we have a judge who's highly conflicted. You know what the confliction is. Nobody wants to write about it, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. If I do, he said, I get put in jail. So we'll play that game a little bit longer. We won't talk about it, but you're allowed to talk about it. I hope you do, because there's never been anybody so conflicted as this.
But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
And you know, one person who I hope is really paying attention to him right now is Justice Merchan, because he is acting in a way that sounds like he's got zero remorse for his conviction, and that is somebody who deserves a maybe more strict sentencing, let's say, than somebody who is willing to admit and ask for forgiveness for their crimes.
I want to remind everybody that the President of the United States has given 7 speeches on the existential crisis that is threatening the United States of America, and the choice between autocracy and democracy, of freedom and somebody that's going to oppress. It is absolutely clear that in this election, you're going to have a choice between two people. A guy named Donald Trump, who everything he touches turns to dirt, who is about revenge and oppression, who is a friend of Vladimir Putin's, and then Joe Biden, who has been really working hard for the American people from the beginning. Since this campaign started, he has been doing very well. He did great in New Hampshire. He did great in South Carolina. He did great in Nevada. His fundraising haul, as you said, is hitting record numbers, and this campaign is starting to hit on all cylinders.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.